This is the end of our certainty series because this is the day that he rose. This is where we get the certainty. We get to put those pieces together. So that brings us to this final lesson in this series. We start over with some new things next week. Certainty. This is like all the evidence comes together right here, and we really need to know what is coming next. There's these things in life that sometimes we're encountering. We stand on the edge of a cliff. If you just imagine you're up high in the Rockies, in the Sierra Mountains somewhere, you're standing on this edge of the cliff, and you take a step, and then you look down, and it just seems like, man, it just keeps dropping. Well, imagine that endless void as you look into it, and you step up, and your toes are hanging off the edge, and it can make you a little queasy. You begin to see things start moving around in your head, and you're like, wow, this is what's down there, and do I want to fall into that, and is there anything to this? And you may not have thought of this, but at some point, when people are reaching the end of their days, they're standing on the edge of a cliff, and they're looking into the abyss. And for many people, they have no idea what's there. Is there anything more? Am I just going to step out into space? It's not Indiana Jones, and you throw some gravel, and there's a little walkway that imagine shows up. You're just stepping out there. Wouldn't it be nice to have some certainty about what's coming, about what is on the other side, about more than just I'm just stepping off the edge of this cliff into nothing, falling, and I have no idea what's there. And this is the point in history 2,000 years ago when God made it clear, yeah, here it is. I can make this so absolutely certain for you that you know there's more, and there's so much more for you. So let's take a look. 1 Corinthians 15, and we have he gives us a big opening to this. I'm going to give, it's the first 9 verses, but let me give you this portion of that. Christ died for our sins, just as the scriptures said. He was buried, and he was raised from the dead on the third day, just as the scriptures said. That is the gospel, the good news. That is the summation related to Christ's death, burial, and resurrection. There's a lot of details that goes into that. What he follows up with in 1 through 9 is, who saw him? I mean, we know the women were there, if you've been reading through the Gospels this week, and saw him because they showed up at the tomb early in the morning. But he shows up to Peter and James. He shows up to the apostles. Remember, Thomas is questioning this whole thing, and then he's asked to touch him. So that's happening. And then it says, and then 500 saw him at one time. And those 500, as Paul is writing this to the Corinthian church, he says, many of them are still with us, still alive. So you can ask them if you want to go talk to people who saw this resurrected Jesus after he came out of the tomb. 1 Corinthians 15, 1 through 9, gives us the list, and it could be verified because someone out of this group could go see him. And Paul also saw the risen Christ after, and he is saying that about himself as well. So here he is telling this story, sharing this information with the people at the church in Corinth, and saying he's alive. He really is alive. So what kind of proof do we need that a person who dies and dies a horrible death, there's no way your body's going to survive that. The torture alone is enough to kill you. And then you're nailed to a cross. So Jesus physically has expired. His body just couldn't take anymore. he's in the tomb, and typically you don't recover from those injuries in a tomb in 3 days. So taking that out of the equation, there's evidence that we should look at. So what kind? So proof. We got physical, real proof. There's the evidence that the women saw, then the disciples came running up as well, and they're looking in the tomb. And Jesus was there before. 3 days later, Sunday morning, he's gone. Something happened in that time. So he gets up, he comes out of his wrappings, the grave cloths that they'd wrapped him in. The stone is moved from the front of the tomb. The head covering is folded neatly, which was a sign that they used in those days to represent, thanks for the dinner, I'm coming back. And so he's just leaving that as a sign that he's not done yet. He has more to do. But they see that. He was there, now he's not there. Physical reality was the tomb is empty. Then they meet him, they talk to him, he eats meals with, he cooks a meal for them. They are interacting in various places, various times. And again, Thomas is asked to touch the wounds because he's doubting that this really took place. We got physical, we got real. That's a kind of proof that helps. There's testimonial, the testimonial verbal proof. That's what we were talking about from 1 Corinthians 15, that there are different people who saw him at different times, and so they tell those stories. They're sharing what they experienced, and in the court of law, that's sufficient. The scientific world we live in, we've talked about this before, the scientific proof requires having a lab and having something that's repeatable so you can keep testing it over and over and over again. But typically people only die one time, so it's really hard to keep that one going. You can't use scientific proof about death. You get one shot. It's a different kind of proof. And then if you have testimonial proof, somebody's seen something, there's a story, there's evidence from what people have seen, heard, experienced, then they can pass that on. So you have that from these people who saw him in these early days. He's 40 days he's walking with them before he ascends to the Father, and then he keeps coming back. And when you're reading through the New Testament, just watch for those occurrences because he shows up more often than you would think. He comes and talks to Paul. He's on a boat that's about to sink. He shows up. He appears at different times and he teaches Paul. He trains Paul in the desert. He talks about that in Galatians. And you have Jesus being involved, the resurrected Jesus coming back and being involved in connecting with people. So you get those stories. They wrote it down. That's documentary or paper. They wrote that information down. We have that in the scriptures. So we have Bibles that have collected that. There are other documents from first century, second century church fathers, people trained by John, and they wrote down notes about things. So that they talk to John, they write notes. Somebody talks to Peter, and they write notes, which is probably the Gospel of Mark. He's connected and related, and there's some other things happening there. So Mark is a young guy. Here's the story. Grew up around it as a kid, and he writes the story. Luke is not Jewish. He didn't grow up there. He just became a Christian. He is a historian. He's a doctor, physician, and he goes back and interviews everybody, which is why we get the story of the birth of Jesus and what Mary had to say. Other people didn't think, oh, you should write down what Mary had to say, because that's a pretty big deal. Luke comes from the outside going, that's a good story. Let's write that one down. So he's interviewing people. So when you read through Luke, you're getting all that kind of information. He's getting testimonial, because he didn't have the physical proof, but he's going to have his testimonial proof. Interviews, he writes it down. We have that, so we have it in paper. And then there's demonstrative, verbal. So that would be more the things that happened to Thomas He's touching. I mean, there are people who touched him. So you got, again, that comes back around to the physical, real part. And then there are people who are seeing him, and Jesus is showing up today. But this is what we have in the scriptures. We have a history. We have people who interacted with him, who saw him, who heard him, who felt him. And then today, Iran is in the news. So many of the Muslim people in Iran are coming to Christ because Jesus shows up and talks to them. And then they go find some missionaries. They go find a church. He gives them some directions, and then they get some help. The Iranian regime in charge right now they don't like the Christians, and they don't like the fact that that the numbers are growing and that the churches exist, and so they're trying to do everything they can to shut that down. And I think they're afraid that somehow they think in this battle that's going on that the West is in cahoots with the Christians, and so they're just trying to hunt them down and kill them. I don't know if you've heard those stories, but that's part of the thing that's unfolding. Jesus has been showing up. He's talking to the people, not only in Iran, but countries around them. But he's still doing this. It's not done yet. He's still there. We have copies of all that information in the scriptures, so we can read those testimonies and be amazed that a person who died comes back. There's evidence, and we have great testimony to it. And when we enter into a relationship with him, we have a whole new thing happening there as a result. So 1 Corinthians 15, 4-8, he was seen by Peter, then the 12. After that, he was seen by more than 500 of his followers at one time. Most of them are still alive, though some have died. Then he was seen by James, and later by all the apostles. Last of all, as though I had been born at the wrong time, Paul says, I also saw him. Yeah, he saw him. Seeing Jesus, a person who's died, a person who was wrapped in burial clothes and put in a tomb, and you don't expect that to happen. So this is remarkable. So what does that have to do with us? John ties all of this in to our relationship or our connection with Jesus and what we will be. Because if we're standing on the edge of that cliff and we're looking at it, it's just an abyss. I don't know what is out there, what is waiting for me. I don't know. I don't want to take a step. And yet everyone's going to take that step. You say, well, what's on the other side? That's where John's, this might be helpful. 1 John chapter 4, verse 2. This is how we know if they have the Spirit of God. If a person claiming to be a prophet acknowledges that Jesus Christ came in a real body, that person has the Spirit of God. Okay? So there's a real body. There's the Spirit of God working, giving some reality to this thing. Now the future. Here's the future. 1 John chapter 3, verse 2. Dear friends, we are already God's children if we know him. But he has not yet shown us what we will be like when Christ appears. But we do know that we will be like him, for we will see him as he really is. There's that reality thing again. The future is we're going to be like him. So when we see him, we're going to be transformed, brought into this whole new reality, this way of being. So the transformation takes place. So what happens? We have a physical body. You know that. We are spiritual beings wrapped in a physical body. That's the dust to dust, ashes to ashes part of us that goes back to the earth. But the spiritual part of us, that soulish part of it, the immaterial part of us, continues. It never was limited to how long our bodies exist. That's where the true heart, the true mind, the true existence, the true memories are all in that immaterial part of the human being. Jesus comes. He's in a physical body. He's been a spiritual being because, Son of God, he's been running around a while. He comes to earth, born as a human being in a physical body. We just read that's how you know that someone has the Spirit of God, if they acknowledge that. So he's got a physical body. Then he dies. When his body is in the tomb, his soul, spirit, immaterial part continues on because he has work to do. He goes to the place of the dead and he begins to tell them, hey, I'm here and there's more to the story. We're not done yet. I am here to take over. I'm here to take over and take away the power, the authority that the evil beings were able to take from the human beings at the beginning. We find it in Genesis chapter 3, and it comes back. Jesus says, no, I have the legal authority. I have died as a human being. I am here to recoup everything that we've lost. So in that time yesterday when it was silent, between his death on Friday and his resurrection today, he's busy. He's also announcing to those other beings that were locked up in Tartarus that they will soon find their doom and that he is again in charge. I'm sure they weren't happy to see him. They thought they were winning when he shows up, and then they find out, oh, he's leaving. He's not staying here. So on early Sunday morning, he leaves, takes the keys, he takes the authority, and he says, I'm taking you people with me. And those who were in Abraham's bosom, paradise in the place of the dead, are now removed from that place and moved to heaven. Now they have a new location with the Father because Jesus said, hey, I'm going to go prepare a place for you. And then I'm going to come for you and I'm going to take you back. He not only came for the disciples, he went to the place of the dead and got everybody that belonged to him and took them all. So now everybody from now on, or since that time, goes, they don't step into an abyss. They don't step off the edge of a cliff into nothing. They step into the presence of the living God in heaven. It's a whole new thing. When he comes back, they're going to see him. We will see him as he is. So there's a physical reality, physical being. That's what he had. Spiritual being, immaterial being that went to the place of the dead. Then he came back, resurrected. Physical body came together, but it's transformed. It's not the same kind of physical body. He can pass through walls. Remember those stories? It's kind of cool. So he can still sit down and fix a meal, eat, be touched, felt. All those things are happening. He can communicate, he has all the memories, but he can also travel, blink of an eye, be somewhere else, anywhere in the universe, back to heaven, back across the earth. Some eating with the boys from Emmaus, goes to Jerusalem, goes to Galilee. He doesn't have to hike it anymore. He can hike it if he wants. You will be like him. That resurrection body, when he comes back, you will be like him. You'll be able to do those things too. And so he's just saying, when you see him, a transformation takes place. 1 Corinthians 15 goes into some detail on how that works. Read some of that for you this morning. You can go back and look at it. It's there because of answering these questions. What happens? And why does it matter that Jesus rose from the dead? Well, that's one aspect of what is future for God's people. It changes everything. So your heavenly you, this is 1 Corinthians 15, earthly people are like the earthly man. Heavenly people are like the heavenly man. So one's like Adam and the other one's going to be like Jesus. Just as we are now like the earthly man, we will someday be like the heavenly man. We'll be like him, like Jesus. That doesn't mean identical. It doesn't mean blonde hair, blue eyes like Jesus in some of the earlier movies. Not that Jesus. We're not going to look like that. We're going to be like him in the sense we're going to be spiritual beings now in a transformed, resurrected body who are aligned with God, part of the family, able to exist forever, accomplishing things we can't even imagine, living an adventure that is all available to us because of what Christ has done on the cross and with the resurrection. He's brought so many things about through that. So there's a new transition that happens in our bodies, in our minds, in our place of residence, and the things we're going to do, the things that are going to be available to us. He wants us to experience as much of that here and now as we can, but there's so much more waiting. We are not standing on the edge of a cliff waiting to step off into nothingness. We're ready to go into certainty because of all that he has done and made possible for us. He's opening the door to so much more. He has died. He has paid the penalty for sin. He has taken the keys of death and hell, and he controls it. No longer does Satan have a hold of that. It is now in a new place. So, 1 Corinthians 15:57, certainty. But I thank God. Yeah, thank God. He gives us victory over sin and death through our Lord Jesus Christ. He gives us victory because of what he's done with the death on the cross, the resurrection that we celebrate this morning. He's made that possible. And we have the victory over sin and death through him because of all that he has accomplished. We're just absolutely in the best position ever. 58 for the Lord. 1 Corinthians 15:58. So, my dear brothers and sisters, be strong and immovable always. Work enthusiastically for the Lord, for you know that nothing you do for the Lord is ever useless. Nothing you ever do for the Lord is useless. Today some great food was made. You brought it to share, but you did it for the Lord. This is like, Resurrection Day, Easter morning. You brought things to share, and as a result of that, the Lord's honored. It's never useless. Got to stack some chairs, got to bring some equipment in. Never useless. All of it matters. All of it counts. All of it is important to what God is doing, and he wants to work in us. I don't know if you've ever been invited to things and you go, I don't want to go there. You got to move tables and stack chairs, and I don't want to make snacks. I don't even know what to bring. I got to stop by Walmart. This is such a drag. And then you get there and it's okay, but sometimes you and if there's cleanup, you might go, I don't know why I'm sticking around here. There's cleanup. Now I got to put stuff away. Nothing is ever useless. Nothing in him. That's what he's made possible. He's taken the victory. He is saying, you can serve me anywhere, anytime, with anything, and it's never useless. He keeps track. He has angels taking notes. He has our names written down. All of that is kept in heaven for us. We get to enjoy that because none of it ever is useless. He has won the victory over sin and death and given us a life to live. It is just really remarkable. So let me just run through some key themes. Certainty comes from Christ's death, Christ's resurrection, verified witnesses, future transformation, victory through Christ. All of it. And we get to enjoy it. And our application is to live according to those truths, to live enthusiastically doing these things for the Lord, because none of it is ever useless. We just live this out to honor him. Lord, thank you for the shed blood, for the hope that we have because of what you did, taking away the penalty that holds us down. Lord, of making it possible for us to live in peace today, with joy, with a direction, with purpose, with healing, because of what you have done. You have gained the victory. And we give you all honor and praise. There is no one else like you. Amen.